Case Curtin, the Greenbrier Bunker, West Virginia. Beneath the pristine lawns of the Greenbrier Resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, lies a facility that officially doesn't exist anymore. Built between 1958 and 1961 at a cost of $14 million, this underground complex was designed to house the entire United States Congress in the event of nuclear war. For 30 years, it remained one of America's best-kept secrets, hidden beneath a luxury hotel where senators and representatives vacationed, completely unaware they were sleeping above their own doomsday shelter. The bunker spans 112,000 square feet, buried under 20 feet of reinforced concrete. It contained dormitories for over 1,000 people, a broadcast studio for emergency government communications, and decontamination chambers designed to scrub nuclear fallout from survivors. The facility was decommissioned in 1992 after a Washington Post expose blew its cover. Today it operates as a tourist attraction, but here's what the tour guides don't mention. Former maintenance workers have reported that certain sections of the Greenbrier bunker remain off-limits to visitors. Electrical infrastructure continues drawing power from dedicated substations that have never been disconnected. The backup generators, supposedly mothballed, receive regular maintenance, according to county inspection records I obtained. In 2017, a former resort employee claimed on an internet forum that construction crews expanded a restricted section, adding what appeared to be modern server equipment. The official explanation is mundane. The Greenbrier still functions as a data storage facility for various corporate clients, which would explain the continued power requirements. Nothing sinister about a repurposed Cold War relic finding new life in the digital age. But conspiracy researchers point to inconsistencies in the decommissioning narrative. Why would a facility designed for continuity of government simply become a tourist trap? Some believe the public bunker is merely the visible layer of a much deeper complex that never stopped operating. I've seen enough government doublespeak to know that decommissioned doesn't always mean abandoned. Case number 9, Site R, Raven Rock Mountain, Pennsylvania, 6 miles north of Camp David. Buried beneath Raven Rock Mountain sits the facility the Pentagon refuses to discuss. Known officially as the Raven Rock Mountain Complex and unofficially as Site R, this underground installation has operated continuously since 1953. Unlike the Greenbrier, Site R never pretended to close. It simply stopped existing in public conversation. Construction began in 1950, hollowing out nearly 3 million cubic feet of granite. The complex houses multiple 3-story buildings constructed inside the mountain itself, connected by tunnels wide enough to accommodate vehicle traffic. At its peak during the Cold War, Site R employed over 3,000 personnel and maintained its own underground reservoir holding millions of gallons of water. What makes Site R unusual is the sheer amount of electricity it consumes. Pennsylvania utility records indicate the facility draws enough power to supply a small city, roughly equivalent to 20,000 homes. The official justification is that Site R serves as an alternate Pentagon, housing backup command and control systems for the Department of Defense. But that explanation leaves questions unanswered. Satellite imagery from 2019 revealed significant surface construction activity, including new ventilation shafts and what appears to be expanded cooling infrastructure. Electrical consumption has increased by approximately 40% since 2001, according to estimates derived from publicly available utility planning documents. The workforce has grown rather than shrunk in an era of supposed military downsizing. Skeptics argue this simply reflects modernization. Underground facilities require extensive climate control systems, and upgraded computing equipment demands more cooling capacity. There's nothing mysterious about a military installation improving its infrastructure, but researchers who monitor government continuity programs believe Site R has expanded far beyond its original footprint, possibly connecting to other classified facilities via tunnel systems that don't appear on any public maps. The mountain keeps its secrets well. Case number 8, the Kelvedon Hatch Secret, Nuclear Bunker, Essex, England. In the quiet English countryside outside Brentwood, Essex, a small brown tourist sign points toward what may be the strangest attraction in Britain. It reads Secret Nuclear Bunker. The irony is intentional. The Kelvedon Hatch facility spent decades classified before its 1994 decommissioning and subsequent conversion into a museum. Today, visitors can tour the three-story underground complex that would have served as regional government headquarters during nuclear war. Built in 1952, Kelvedon Hatch descends 75 feet underground, protected by 10 feet of reinforced concrete. The facility housed communications equipment, a BBC broadcasting studio, and accommodations for up to 600 military and civilian personnel. Its primary purpose was coordinating civil defense and maintaining governmental authority in whatever remained of southeast England after a Soviet strike. The bunker's current owners, the Parrish family who originally sold the land for its construction, now operated as a tourist attraction and occasionally rent it for corporate events. But here's where the story becomes interesting. Despite its public museum status, certain electrical systems at Kelvedon Hatch remain connected to government infrastructure. The facility's hardened communications lines were never fully severed, according to documents obtained through Britain's Freedom of Information Act. In 2011, telecommunications workers reported unusual activity in junction boxes connected to the bunker's original communication network. British Telecom denied any active connections, but local utility records show the facility consuming significantly more electricity than a museum should require. The rational explanation is that the museum's climate control systems and lighting simply draw substantial power. Old concrete structures require careful environmental management to prevent deterioration. But enthusiasts who monitor British government continuity planning suggest Kelvedon Hatch may serve as a backup facility, maintained in minimal operational status just in case. Even in death, Cold War bunkers don't fully die. Case number 7, the Deafin Bunker, Carp, Ontario. 30 kilometers west of Ottawa, buried beneath a quiet Canadian community, sits the facility that once represented Canada's plan to survive nuclear annihilation. Named after Prime Minister John Diefenbaker, who authorized its construction in 1959, the Deafin Bunker was designed to shelter Canadian government leadership during atomic war. The 4-story underground complex covers approximately 100,000 square feet, protected by walls of reinforced concrete up to 4 feet thick. For 3 decades, the Deafin Bunker remained classified, staffed by rotating military personnel who maintained its readiness. The facility contained a CBC broadcast studio, a Bank of Canada vault stocked with gold reserves, and a war cabinet room where surviving ministers would have coordinated Canada's response to nuclear attack. The Canadian military decommissioned the bunker in 1994, and it opened as a Cold War museum 4 years later. But documents obtained through access to information requests reveal that not all of the Deafin Bunker transferred to civilian control. Approximately 20% of the facility remains under federal jurisdiction, sealed off from public access and tour routes. Electrical records indicate these restricted sections draw continuous power, far exceeding what empty storage space would require. Former military personnel have confirmed that communication equipment in the sealed sections receives regular maintenance and periodic upgrades. The Canadian government maintains that these areas simply contain sensitive materials that couldn't be declassified, not evidence of ongoing operations. Skeptics accept this explanation. Nations don't abandon emergency infrastructure entirely. Maintaining limited capabilities in a decommissioned facility represents prudent planning rather than conspiracy. But researchers who study government continuity note that the Deafin Bunker's restricted sections expanded after September 11, 2001, suggesting the facility's role may have evolved rather than ended. Old bunkers, it seems, find new purpose. Case for 6. The Sonnenberg Tunnel, Lucerne, Switzerland. The Swiss don't do anything halfway, including preparing for nuclear war. Beneath the city of Lucerne runs the Sonnenberg Tunnel, a roadway that doubles as the world's largest civil defense shelter. Constructed between 1970 and 1976 at a cost of 40 million Swiss francs, this dual-purpose facility can transform from a functioning highway into a nuclear shelter capable of protecting 20,000 civilians within 24 hours. The tunnel stretches 5 kilometers through solid rock, with 7-ton blast doors at each entrance, capable of withstanding nuclear detonation. The shelter section contains dormitories, medical facilities, a command center, and enough provisions to sustain its population for extended periods. The Swiss government maintains that the Sonnenberg remains fully operational, tested regularly through civil defense exercises. But here's where official statements become murky. Power consumption data for the Sonnenberg facility significantly exceeds what maintaining a dormant shelter would require. The tunnel's ventilation systems operate continuously rather than cycling periodically as maintenance protocols would suggest. Underground sensors detect constant electrical activity in sections supposedly sealed except during exercises. In 2006, journalists discovered that the Sonnenberg's command center had been quietly upgraded with modern computing equipment, fiber optic communications, and air filtration systems far exceeding Cold War specifications. The Swiss government confirmed the upgrades but declined to explain their purpose, citing national security. The straightforward explanation is that Switzerland, characteristically prudent, simply modernizes its emergency infrastructure. The country requires all residents to have access to nuclear shelter space, making the Sonnenberg's maintenance a legal obligation rather than a mystery. But analysts who study Swiss defense policy note that the Sonnenberg's power consumption patterns suggest more than maintenance. Something in that mountain operates around the clock. Swiss efficiency means never letting good infrastructure go to waste. Case number 5, Mount Yamantau, Bashkortostan, Russia. In the southern Ural Mountains of Russia, roughly 850 miles east of Moscow, rises Mount Yamantau. At 5,281 feet, it's the highest peak in the region, surrounded by restricted military zones and persistent rumors. American intelligence analysts have monitored this location since the 1990s, when satellite imagery revealed massive excavation operations and construction activity inconsistent with any publicly acknowledged project. The Russian government has offered multiple contradictory explanations for activity at Mount Yamantau. Officials have variously claimed the site houses a mining operation, a food storage facility, a Treasury Reserve bunker, and a repository for national treasures. Each explanation has been retracted or contradicted by subsequent statements. What remains consistent is the extraordinary scale of the operation. Construction at Mount Yamantau has continued for over 3 decades, involving thousands of workers and billions of rubles in investment. Heat signatures detected by American satellites indicate massive underground facilities drawing substantial electrical power. Railway lines connect the mountain to the Russian national grid, supporting estimates that the complex extends thousands of feet below the surface. In 1996, American officials directly asked their Russian counterparts about Mount Yamantau during diplomatic meetings. The Russians denied any significant military installation existed. Satellite imagery from the following year revealed accelerated construction activity. The skeptical view holds that Mount Yamantau is simply Russia's version of Site R, or Cheyenne Mountain, a continuity of government facility designed to preserve Russian leadership during nuclear war. Such facilities exist in every nuclear-armed nation. There's nothing inherently sinister about their construction, but intelligence analysts note that Mount Yamantau's scale exceeds any known equivalent facility. Whatever the Russians have built inside that mountain, they've invested resources suggesting purposes beyond simple survival. Some mountains hold secrets their governments will never acknowledge. Case number 4, the Beijing Underground City, China. Beneath the streets of central Beijing lies a parallel city that few tourists ever see. Constructed between 1969 and 1979, this network of tunnels and chambers was designed to protect Beijing's population during Soviet nuclear attack. At its peak, the Beijing Underground City extended across 30 square miles, connecting thousands of homes, businesses, and government buildings through passages dug largely by hand. The Chinese government has acknowledged this underground network's existence, even opening small sections to tourist visits during the 1990s and early 2000s. Official estimates suggest the tunnels could shelter approximately 300,000 people, providing access to clinics, schools, warehouses, and water treatment facilities. For decades, the underground city served as a monument to Cold War-era mass mobilization. But in 2008, authorities abruptly closed all public access to the tunnels, citing safety concerns. Former access points were sealed with concrete. Tourist operations ceased without explanation. Chinese media stopped reporting on the underground city entirely, a notable silence in state-controlled press. What makes this case peculiar is the electrical data. Beijing municipal records show continued power allocation to underground districts officially listed as abandoned. Ventilation shafts throughout central Beijing remain operational, drawing electricity for air circulation systems that serve no acknowledged purpose. Workers maintaining Beijing's modern subway system have reported encountering sealed passages and hearing machinery operating behind concrete walls. The official explanation attributes the closure to structural instability. Tunnels dug during political campaigns often lack proper engineering oversight, making their continued public use dangerous. But analysts who monitor Chinese military infrastructure suggest the underground city has been repurposed rather than abandoned. Whatever operates beneath Beijing today apparently requires secrecy rather than tourism revenue. Cities within cities, hidden in plain sight. Case number 3, Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Colorado. Perhaps no bunker in history has captured public imagination like Cheyenne Mountain. Located outside Colorado Springs, this facility became synonymous with Cold War defense through countless films, television shows, and novels depicting its operations. NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, operated from inside Cheyenne Mountain from 1966 until 2006, monitoring North American airspace for incoming nuclear missiles. The facility's specifications remain impressive. 15 buildings stand on massive springs inside the hollowed mountain, designed to absorb nuclear shock waves. Blast doors weighing 25 tons each conceal the entrance against atomic attack. At its operational peak, Cheyenne Mountain housed over 1,000 personnel managing the aerospace warning and defense systems that would have coordinated American response to nuclear war. In 2006, NORAD relocated its command operations to nearby Peterson Air Force Base, citing cost savings and improved technology that no longer required underground protection. Cheyenne Mountain was placed on warm standby status, maintained by a skeleton crew, but no longer serving as the primary command center. Many assumed the mountain had become a relic, but here's what the standby designation actually means. Cheyenne Mountain continues drawing substantial electricity, enough to power major industrial operations. Maintenance crews rotate through the facility continuously. Communication systems receive regular upgrades. The blast doors have been tested as recently as 2019. Multiple presidential administrations have allocated funds for infrastructure improvements at a facility supposedly on standby. The rational explanation is straightforward. Warm standby means exactly that, keeping the facility ready for rapid reactivation if circumstances require. America's most famous bunker hasn't been abandoned, merely deprioritized. But defense analysts note that Cheyenne Mountain's actual operational status remains classified. The mountain may house capabilities that neither acknowledge nor deny. Some legends never really end. Case number 2, Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center, Virginia, 60 miles west of Washington, D.C., nestled in Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, sits the facility that officially doesn't discuss its own existence. Mount Weather has operated as a classified government installation since the 1950s, serving as the designated relocation site for America's senior leadership during catastrophic emergency. Unlike the Greenbrier's theatrical secrecy, Mount Weather has maintained genuine operational silence for over 7 decades. The facility's surface structures are unremarkable, resembling a modest industrial campus. But beneath the mountain lies a self-contained underground city, estimated to span over 600,000 square feet across multiple levels. The complex houses a parallel governmental infrastructure, including its own communication systems, water treatment, power generation, and food supplies sufficient to sustain its population indefinitely. What makes Mount Weather exceptional is its documented continuity of operations. During the September 11 attacks, Vice President Dick Cheney was evacuated to Mount Weather. Congressional leaders have confirmed the facility's ongoing readiness. Unlike tourist bunkers that show visitors decommissioned relics, Mount Weather actively operates its classified functions today. Power records confirm this reality. Loudoun County electrical allocations indicate Mount Weather draws continuous megawatt-level power, consistent with major data center operations. The facility maintains dedicated electrical substations and backup generation capacity, suggesting complete independence from civilian infrastructure. There's no conspiracy theory here, just conspiracy fact. Mount Weather exists, operates, and remains classified. Government officials confirm its purpose while refusing to discuss its capabilities. Security clearances required for access exceed those at most intelligence agencies. But researchers who study continuity programs note that Mount Weather's known capabilities likely represent only a fraction of its actual infrastructure. What lies beneath that mountain may be more extensive than any official acknowledgement suggests. Some secrets hide by operating in plain sight. Case Server 1. The Moscow Metro 2. Russia beneath the streets of Moscow, running deeper than the famous metro system that serves millions of commuters, lies a network that the Russian government has never officially acknowledged. Known as Metro 2 or D6, this parallel underground railway reportedly connects the Kremlin to key governmental facilities, military command centers, and emergency bunkers throughout the Moscow region. If it exists as described, Metro 2 represents the most ambitious underground construction project in human history. Reports of secret Moscow tunnels date to Stalin's era. Defectors have described underground railways running 40 to 200 meters below the surface, far deeper than the public metro's maximum depth of 84 meters. Former Soviet officials, including Mikhail Gorbachev's chief of staff, have confirmed elements of the system's existence. In 1994, the Russian government acknowledged that transport tunnels existed beneath Moscow, but declined to provide details. Evidence of Metro 2 comes from multiple sources. Construction workers have reported stumbling into abandoned excavations, not appearing on any official plans. Geologists have mapped anomalies suggesting large underground cavities along reported Metro 2 routes. Electrical infrastructure surveys indicate substantial power consumption in areas with no acknowledged facilities. Former KGB personnel have described riding trains through tunnels unknown to the public. Skeptics argue that Metro 2 represents an amalgamation of various legitimate Soviet construction projects exaggerated into conspiracy theory. Underground command posts and shelters certainly exist beneath Moscow. That doesn't require a secret railway system connecting them, but the electrical evidence challenges complete dismissal. Moscow's underground power consumption significantly exceeds what known infrastructure would require. Something operates beneath that city, drawing megawatts of electricity around the clock. I've spent years investigating claims of hidden facilities, and Metro 2 remains the case that haunts me most. Not because the evidence proves its existence conclusively, but because every avenue of investigation leads to the same answer. Moscow guards its underground secrets with the kind of silence that only accompanies something worth hiding. When a government refuses to confirm or deny, they're usually denying.